And I could never make the girl thing really work. I could never pull that off at all. I don't think they were buying it, and I don't think I was buying it in myself. I auditioned for Miss Saigon, Utah, in Salt Lake, and then like 4 months later, while I was at BYU teaching in like Sandy and doing Children of Eden and all these shows, I got a call to go to be a Miss Saigon in New York. And then I was terrified. I remember laying in Old Mill apartment complex at BYU in my bed, about to leave to go to New York City to be in a Broadway show. Absolutely terrified.
Oh my God.
And it literally happened within like weeks. 1 week I was like passing the sacrament and like in school and, you know, going to Young Ambassador rehearsal, and then I was going to be in New York in the next week. And I was like, who am I out there? Do I go to church out there? And I did. When I first came out here, I definitely went to church because that was who I knew. That was my social circle. But I was terrified at the show because I knew all these like queens were going to call me out and be like, you're not fooling anyone. You're young, Mormon, gay boy. You need to come out. And they were pretty respectful of like my process. I remember I kissed a boy in New York, and it was kind of very experimental and tried it and stuff. And I remember being so weirded out. I was like, oh, this is like my fantasies. Like, this is a dream that I've had. This is like something real that's happening. And like right after that, I left New York and went on tour with Annie Get Your Gun. And then I met my first boyfriend out there. And we lived together. Those 5 months in New York was kind of my like trial ground for kind of... I think I was definitely coming out to myself. Because I had come out before at BYU to Carlos, to my friend Carlos Encinias. And we had come out to each other, and it was like the first person I'd really come out to and just spilled out all my guts as a friend. And he came out to me, and we were like, girlfriends, we're friends. And it was so good for me because I had this strength. And we were coming from the same place. Like, we were two people who were going to kind of do this thing, do the Mormon thing, and go to church and blah, blah, blah. But when I went on tour, I really kind of like disconnected from... Karen, Carlos moved here to New York. They were doing their thing, but I was like away from everyone. And there was this like cute guy that all through the rehearsal process of our show, like we rehearsed here in New York all day for like a month and a half, and then we went on the road. And every day I kind of looked at him and flirted, and like we'd been building up, you know, we'd planted seeds and built. So then we went... It didn't happen for a while on tour, but we went on tour and we lived together, but we had a huge hotel room with 2 separate rooms, and we'd always hang out, and candles were lit, and it was all romantic, and
Cute.
it was very cute. And I just had a total crush on this guy, but I couldn't say it, didn't know how that worked. And I knew if I was going to come out, I wanted a boyfriend. Like, I wasn't this hoary guy that just wanted to like sleep around and just, you know... I didn't want to do that because I knew I would be the boyfriend type that would just be in relationships and kind of do that whole thing. So I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I want to be romantic about it and treat it like a straight relationship. Like, I want some courting to happen, I want some romance to happen, and then the kissing, and then the sex. Terrified of sex. Terrified. But we, you know, he's... a sweetheart, because we took it so slow, and I was like creeping along. Every day was like touch. It was literally like that slow. And then one night I just like attacked him and kissed him and was like, I can't do this anymore. And I kind of busted out and was like, I'm totally attracted to you. I totally like spilled my guts. And I wasn't even drinking then. That was a long time ago. And it was in like our hotel room, his hotel room bed. I was staying in another hotel room, and we were watching movies, and I just like jumped on him and was like, I just think you're cute and I like you. And so from that, we acted like boyfriends. Like, we didn't have sex right away, but we were flirty, and I was totally like Twitter pated by this because I'd never had that before. I'd never had a boyfriend. I never had a girlfriend that I was attracted to. I never had someone... I was 23 years old and had never had someone that I was attracted to that I could be with. And it was like this explosion of feelings and coming up in me. It was very exciting. Being Mormon, though, like growing up Mormon, definitely was such a hindrance on that relationship. And because of... And he went through a lot because of it, because everything was about me and my religion. My thought process, my everything. Like, I was so like, well, that's right, that's wrong. This is good and that's bad. Because that's how I was taught to see the world. And I think I didn't have like a very Zen point of view about it. It was all about me. It was like a very selfish relationship because the speed in which we moved in was based on like my comfortableness with it. So, but I remember the first time we were like naked in bed, I was like shaking. I was so nervous and afraid. I was like freezing cold, and like shaking because I was so terrified. And I don't even think I enjoyed it that much because I was so scared. And I totally got in my own way with that.
Of what? What were you scared of?
I was afraid of the wrongness of it. I think I was afraid that it was wrong still.
Oh.
I was very afraid.
You weren't afraid of, like, how's this going to work? You were, or, like, sex for the
I was
first time.
also afraid of, I was afraid of, like, how far are we going to go? Like, are we going to have sex? And how far are we going to go? Because there is that question. You know, the gays are, who's on top, who's on bottom now?
And did you feel like, so you also felt like God is watching us from a distance?
I did feel like God was watching. But I had made that choice that I was going to do this and enjoy it, and if it was wrong and I decided to come back to the church or whatever, I'd just repent about it and figure it out later, but I needed to live these feelings out for myself. I remember having that conscious thought and was like, you know what? No. I have to do this. I've tortured myself for so long about this. I wasn't happy in the church, going to church by myself every week. Like, I was so unhappy going to church every week. I was absolutely miserable. And nothing anyone said, like, lifted me up. I love the church, and I had a testimony then. I still have a testimony of a lot of principles of the Mormon faith. But I was so miserable that I wasn't, like, living out these passions and this thing I had inside of me that I had to figure it out. Carlos actually came and stayed with me and was like, you need to come out to your parents. I'm like, I know. He's like, but don't do it this weekend because your brother's marrying a non-Mormon and your parents are going to be mad about it. And they have enough on their plate, so you can't come out to them this weekend. And I was like, oh, never. Of course not. Cut to me at my house as my brother drives away, like, for his honeymoon. The next day, I'm like, Mom and Dad, gay. I'm gay.